Hello everyone. This particular lecture, the name is Introduction to ELNET-3L. Some of you might wonder that what has ELNET-3L got to do with good teaching. And those of you who are older may even connect with this name ELNET-3L. This is a program which ran at IIT Kharagpur from 1995 to 2001 for about 6 years, 5 years basically. What has ELNET-3L got to do with good teaching? Not much really, excepting it's a very interesting way of converting an ordinary lecture given by a master subject expert, not necessarily a fantastic lecture like that of Feynman, but a good subject matter lecture into interesting and productive material. ELNET-3L is basically an extension of TVI, tutored video instruction. Is adapted from tutored video instruction for the first time. So, when the proposal came to IIT Kharagpur to do a program like that, we were completely new, but I was excited because I had done some work in TVI, tutored video instruction. Let's now look at the issues involved. How it started, let's see how it started. And what about the name? Let me clarify the name right now. ELNET-3L is a name I had personally given while teaching a course at IIT Delhi. I used to teach courses in IIT Delhi in the electrical engineering department also. ELNET-3L at that time, and I was interested in ELNET-3L concept for quite a long time. ELNET-3L meant electronically networked lifelong learning. That lifelong learning became 3L. It was a peculiar name given, but it was just a fancy name, ELNET-3L. I joined IIT Kharagpur in 1995, 31st March 1995 to be precise. Within 2 months' time, a company called DACP Private Limited, I forget the full name of the DACP, it was situated at Lee Road. They were alumni, I think of the 5 of them, 3 were alumni of IIT Kharagpur, one of Agriculture Department, one of Chemical Engineering Department, one of Mechanical Engineering Department, and I think these are 3. The others were engineers, but they were not from IIT Kharagpur. This DACP Private Limited approached IIT Kharagpur, that means the director IIT Kharagpur, to help them produce videotapes in ICT. The reason was obvious. Around the 1990s, late 1990s, early 2000, there was a big craze about the upcoming ICT, and the big revolution of ICT was coming at that time. There was not enough manpower. So, the meeting of shortage of ICT engineers was the major objective of this. In fact, DACP was interested more about making money than anything else. Although they would not agree to that today. Their proposal was to produce 1 hour long videotapes, 40 video lectures at a time for a course and several courses. Number of courses were not specified, 8, 10 courses in the areas which were beginning at that time, like object-oriented programming, GUI, and things like that. Now, they wanted to broadcast these between 5 to 6 a.m. daily. That some understanding with the Minister of Broadcasting and Broadcasting that this is the time which will be allocated to them and they can broadcast in time. Now, when the proposal came to me, I was a little skeptic because I didn't really think that there would be many people who would be agreeable to watch a program between 5 to 6 a.m. in the morning every day. The program would be a failure was my thinking. So I said I wanted to give it time, and instead of just producing a videotapes for broadcast between 5 to 6 a.m. in the morning, let's look at it a little more seriously and think what are the possibilities. So the response of IIT Kharagpur was a little different. It covered much more than producing some tapes and transmitting at time. We suggested that before we produce the video material, the DACP Private Limited should do an extensive market survey to find out what are the areas in which these were required. And they did that. It took them almost a month, and they did that pretty seriously. And I suggested to them that unless they looked at it very seriously, they could be running into a great loss. And after a serious research, they found about 9 areas. Some of them were combined, and we produced something like 6 or 8 courses in ICT. There was one in telecommunication engineering, very well produced one, but that did not run. Now, the issue was much bigger than what we originally thought. If IIT produced a tape, the value would lie in the name of IIT Kharagpur. But the moment you put the IIT Kharagpur name on a tape, immediately Senate approval becomes necessary. And once Senate approval becomes a necessity, there are a whole lot of complications which arise. The quality standard, to ensure that how the quality is maintained throughout, that was an important point. Now, we proposed the ELNET-3L model. That means we suggested that the tapes would be produced as planned by them, but there will be 2 parts to it. The academic responsibility for producing the material, choosing the content, organizing them, everything about the academic aspect would be handled by IIT Kharagpur. Which tapes would be how long, who would do that, in what order would be the responsibility of IIT Kharagpur. But along with that came a lot of responsibility about administrative responsibility, about choosing students, getting their admission, getting fees, running the courses at a particular time, where would the courses be running, all that responsibility was the administrative responsibility. That would be handled by DACP Private Limited. So the responsibilities were clearly divided. One was the academic one, the other one was the administrative one. Administrative responsibilities increased with time, because as you increase the number of students, these courses were, we proposed that ELNET-3L would run in study centers. We looked at the model of tutored video instruction, adopted part of that, and created the rest ourselves. We said, they would have to run in study centers which are very, very clearly specified by us, and will have to be maintained, the standards will have to be maintained strictly. On the study centers, we told them we gave them an engineering drawing of the study centers. We suggested how much area would be study area, what would be the library area, how the entrance should look. Every detail was given in that approval, because the name IIT Kharagpur was involved. And when we said they will run in study centers, we also had certain other things in mind. We said the study centers should open at 8 a.m. in the morning preferably, latest by 9, and continue till 9 p.m. at night. That means at least 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. There was a bigger reason for this long hours, which means they would have to employ batches of people to run the study centers. We really had a bigger plan, and the study centers and running the tapes were only small part of the story. We also said the people who could join the study centers would have flexible entry requirements. That means this was very, very new at that time and was never done anywhere before. They were all part of a bigger plan. The entry requirement was that anybody who was a graduate, could be in history, could be in Hindi, could be in engineering, could be in any branch. Anybody who was a graduate and 21 years old or older could join the course. This was something like the IGNOU. That means entry requirement did not depend on qualification they previously had, but their maturity level, assumed maturity level. And then they would have to guarantee that they want to take the course or not, because we would specify them what the prerequisite, that is, what should they know before they actually join the course. So the prerequisite was given in detail, explained in detail. Every study center had a counselor, and the counselor would give the prerequisite in great detail. And the prospective candidate would have to look at the prerequisite and decide whether they are able to, whether they will be able to handle it or not. And they are clearly told the ability to handle the prerequisite is their responsibility. If they fail, they would lose the money, and that is their own money. So they have to use a lot of caution in that. And then we also suggested that these courses would run in study centers from 9 a.m. in the morning or 8 a.m. in the morning till 9 a.m. at night, multiple times. The same course would run multiple times. That means they would have an opportunity of watching this program from, let's say, Monday morning, Wednesday afternoon, and Friday evening, or in other possible cycles of 3 hours, 4 hours in time, which means there are multiple opportunities. If they miss out one on a particular day, they could come and see the program on another day. Additionally, the value of this program would lie in the examination we conducted and their grading. After a great deal of thought and deliberations in the Senate, we decided, unlike the other programs of continuing education, where we gave only a certificate of attendance, we would give a certificate of achievement also, which means grades would be given, which would mean examinations will be conducted. The moment examinations by IIT Kharagpur was involved, immediately a great deal of thinking had to be coming in to ensure the sanctity of the system. How would one ensure that the question papers were not leaked? How would one ensure that the grades were uniform and they were correctly given? So, all faculty members who had recorded their courses and who had the responsibility of conducting the examinations, they had to take the responsibility as a part of the contract given to them. They had to ensure that the sanctity of the examination was completed. We ensured that the question papers would be locked up in the same kind of boxes as JEE and sent in the same way as JEE to the study centers a day in advance. There will be multiple locks and there will be multiple witnesses to ensure that the locks were not broken beforehand, and there would be an observer from IIT Kharagpur side, and that observer would be of the rank of at least a joint director or a director or a very senior member of the faculty. This would be that, but that person would not be an invigilator or an examination controller. That person's job would be only to ensure that the locks have not been broken, and then we took so much precaution to ensure sanctity of the system. Now, we also suggested that if we ran and when we instructed the examination, the faculty members to conduct the examinations, we also told them that the examination should not be of any lower standard than they would normally give an IIT student when examining the same thing. That means the examination standards were very high. In fact, we went to the extent that in case there was some difficulty at the last moment, then system of fax was installed, that last moment the question papers would be faxed to the study center. What was the bigger vision? Let me come to that a little later. Having achieved this much, we suggested to the Senate, rather hopefully, but without really expecting a positive response, but we tried that courses like this, since they were very strictly conducted, they are taught by very senior faculty and very serious faculty and conducted in all earnest, they could be given a credit for that each one, and number of credits, if they completed a number of credits, they could accumulate and they could get a certificate for credits in that particular area. However, Senate did not agree to that concept. So, summary was that ELNET-3L program started as a 40-hour program. We broadcast at 5 in the morning, which I did not think had any value, and ended up being a regular course running between 5-6, running almost 12 hours a day throughout the center. What did it achieve? It achieved an incredible kind of thing, which is it had, you could take a course anywhere in the country. Towards the end, there were 110 study centers operating 12 hours a day offering 9 courses. So you could take any course, anywhere, anytime. If you missed a lecture, a course, you could come in later on and see it yourself, because there would be additional videotape recorders. How these courses be seen, that's the main important part of it. It was exactly the same way as tutored video instruction. The actual courses will be seen in the study center on a table in a V shape. There will be maximum of 8 students. Although theory says 3 to 4 students at a time is the best combination, but for commercial reason we have to increase this number to 8 students at a time. So 8 students at a time would watch a program starting and stopping every 6 to 8 minutes, and stopping for 2 to 3 minutes, watching the program at that time, discussing the problems, and if there's anything which they did not understand, that will be sent to the main instructor at IIT Kharagpur. It worked extremely well indeed, and there was a lot of similarity with TV, a lot of similarity. Instead of saying a lot of similarity, it was really an adapted version of TVI, tutor video instruction. And let's say the big picture was that what we were trying to do was to establish a model of good teaching, or a model of teaching which could become the norm of the future. We knew even at that time that the bandwidth requirement, the bandwidth availability would increase dramatically. At that time we were recording the tapes on video cassettes or ordinary video cassette recorder and sending the video cassettes by post or by people regularly. But this would change. As time went on, we would have much larger stack of video cassettes or video material. They could be sent almost instantly, and so the issue of transmitting the material would become a non-issue. Partnership issues, we were clear that the academic institutions like IIT Kharagpur would not be able to handle both the academic issue and the partnership issue, and the administrative issue. So the partnership issues were clearly defined. Senate approval of all norms. We also agreed at that time that all norms regarding the course would have to be approved by the Senate and continuously monitored by a Senate subcommittee on continuing education. And that included the advertisements being put into the newspaper by ELNET-3L authorities. Certification issues we have already talked about, that initially we said there will be certification of attendance and certification of examination, but if possible at a future date, a number of courses, certificates of a number of courses should be possible to be aggregated and given a certificate in a particular area, but that did not work out. Quality control, unannounced visits by and cancellation of permit. To ensure that we were serious about quality control, IIT Kharagpur ensured that all study centers would come under direct control of IIT Kharagpur at any time. That means whether the norms were being maintained, that every study center had to have a certain number of books and references material, certain number of video courses, video tapes available, and the neatness and all the facilities should be of extremely high standard, befitting that of the IIT Kharagpur. In case they violated this norm, the permit of the study center would be cancelled. And in fact, there are a number of study centers whose permits were cancelled at a moment's notice. We have already talked about faculty selection, and to repeat it, the faculty selected were possibly the best faculty that was available at that particular point of time. Unfortunately, the courses were only in computer science and IT area, so the faculty had to be primarily from computer science department, but there were others. For example, in GUI, Professor Mukherjee, Professor Banerjee was from industrial engineering department, who was specialized in that area, GUI and object-oriented programming. Curriculum, we suggested to the faculty that we left the choice to them. What would be the minimum requirement and what would be the maximum requirement? The faculty decided that. Study center facilities and approval. Study centers had a V-shaped table with a video cassette recorder which could be controlled by the tutor at any point of time, and 8 students could sit and watch at the same time. In case anybody missed out, there are adequate library facilities and adequate number of extra tapes so they could take home and watch it again. Flip teaching at IIT Madras, I'll talk about it a little later. Just to give you an idea how this program was, at the end of 5 years, or let's say at the end of 4 years, we decided that we will run a feedback program. So anonymous forms were sent out to 1,200 students over the country in 100 study centers over a period of 1 year. And the form had 2 questions. One, how would you compare this mode of learning with normal classroom learning? Very favorably, about the same, not very favorably, very unfavorably. Although I don't record the exact number today, this is many years ago, but to the best of my knowledge, the number of people who said very favorably was 92%, 92 to 93%, which proved an extremely important point, that people were very skeptical that no one could learn from videotape was the norm at that time. But the actual opinions of students, which was anonymously gathered over a long period of time across the country, showed otherwise. Additionally, since these courses cost almost 10,000 rupees each for a 40-hour program, and these programs also had library facilities, the laboratory facilities, which was unlike the TVI program. So somebody who's spending 10,000 rupees, they were asked, would you recommend this course to your friends? Very strongly, no opinion, poorly, very poorly. Again, not unsurprisingly, the answer was 91% or 92% said very strongly. They are prepared to bet their money where their mouth was. So it's important to understand that what ELNET-3L did was re-establish tutored video instruction, where an ordinary lecture could be seen in a remote area on a videotape, producing academic results which were as good as, if not better than, the normal classroom. And to conclude, let me tell you that the results of the examination, when analyzed, showed that at that time the average pass rate of distance education programs was very low, but this we could not call distance education program as such, because they were direct videotapes of faculty, but these were extremely good indeed. So, we would take up the remaining part of it in the next lecture.